Have you hit a wall? How to pivot from a toxic job. This is for Black women in toxic jobs. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm the co-host with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women. It's already passed, but if you would like to get the replay, you are able to do so by going in the description section and accessing that. So we ushered over 300 Black women to freedom and learning about ways to replace their income, what to do about their health insurance, so they can pivot to something different. So today we're going to be talking about when you're at a job and you just feel like you're running into a wall, like you feel like there's no future for you. You feel like, I don't know what to do. You just hit a wall. And sometimes you need to hit that wall to kind of help you kind of reality test. Like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Is this the life that I want to live? I know that I definitely experienced that. So we're going to talk about when you feel like hitting a wall, like that you've hit a wall at your toxic job, and what are some ways, some actionable steps for you to pivot and do well? So not just pivot and just be out here, pivot and do well in your professional life. So I'm going to turn over to my guest, Alisia Gill, for her to introduce herself, and we're going to get right into the conversation. So Alisia, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you very much. So my name is Alisia Gill, and I work with women to really confidently move towards life of meaning and fulfillment and away from jobs that are hurting them and not serving them, because we deserve that, right?
Absolutely.
So, amen. And so I'm a career coach by way of having been the head of HR. I was chief people officer. I was the first chief people officer in New York City government, right? So
Wow.
I've had conversations, and I'm also an economist. So I think about things in the context, not just of the employee or the individual, like you and me, I count, but also what's happening in the broader workforce and labor markets, because there's no reason why Black women can't be doing those same things.
Right. So, Alicia, what are some ways that toxicity and burnout show up for Black women in a way that it makes us feel like we're hitting a wall? What does that look like? What are some
Yeah,
of the issues that contribute to that?
yeah. So it's really interesting, this concept of hitting a wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is, first of all, a wall implies it's blocking you for something,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're being blocked for something.
Mm-hmm.
So it also implies that it wasn't there and now it is,
Right.
right? And you hit it, and that hurts. Okay. So so none of those things are amazing.
Right.
Now, when we are burnt out, what does it mean to be burnt out? It means to have had light and the light is gone,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no light. Or if the light is not gone, it's diminished. It's
Mm-hmm.
less than,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as it relates to people, that means you're bringing a lot less than
Mm-hmm.
your best self to the table.
Yeah.
And sometimes we will keep running into the wall. We'll tell ourselves it's not really a wall, right?
Mm.
We'll
Or I
tell
can
us,
handle it. I'm get some equipment so I can run against this wall and be okay.
yeah,
Line ourselves. Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. That doesn't
Right.
hurt. That doesn't hurt. Like,
Right.
because I'm strong. God help us all. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
strong Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, how much trouble have we gotten into because of that phrase?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then burnout is something that is easy to recognize in another person. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We all know the people in our lives who are burnt out.
Right.
Whether or not they accept it is another question. But
Mm-hmm.
we know that. And I encourage everybody here to do some self analysis, some really honest reflection to
Mm-hmm.
see if you, in fact, are burnt out as well.
Yeah. 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 So self-assessment is very important. And I think that because many of us as Black women are so busy juggling so many different things that often we don't have the time to do that. But when we don't, we kind of stay in these same situations. So if nothing changes about what we choose to do, we will stay in these situations running against a wall, right? The other thing is, I wonder if we could talk a little bit about ways of toxicity can dim a Black woman's light in the workplace? Because I feel like I could definitely talk about that at length, but I'm curious about for you, like, what are your thoughts about ways that toxicity in the workplace can dim that light?
Yeah, well, you're right. That's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I think about toxicity, I think of it about the way I think of it as it's the circumstances and the environment in which you find yourself that you cannot control.
Mm.
You yourself are not creating a toxic situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like being in an aquarium and the pH is off. The fish are going to die. It's not the fish's fault that they died. They're
Right.
in the wrong tank,
Yeah.
right? The circumstances aren't right for them.
Or
And
like
it
the
can be
water's dirty, like I say, right? So when I talk about toxic jobs, I'm not speaking of like one interaction to the whole system is dirty, right? So the water's dirty. So we can't control those conditions. It's a larger
exactly.
issue. Yeah.
That's right. And I think a lot of Black women, we can take it on ourselves. Well, maybe it's not toxic. Well, maybe if I just put these goggles on, maybe if we can just find all the things because Black excellence is real.
Right.
And a lot of us have been very achievement oriented, and dang it, we're going to achieve no matter where you put us.
That's right. And that's how we've been brought up.
And we have been brought up that way. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a trap, and it's harmful, and it hurts, and
Mm-hmm.
it diminishes who we could be and who we deserve to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think your point, I do think it is important to realize toxicity for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's something that you are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
It can cloud where your vision is. No wonder you hit a wall. You can't see it,
Yeah.
right? You're too busy out here trying to
You just want to
convince yourself.
survive.
Yeah, you think it's about you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's really not. And
Yeah.
even if it is about you, there's something about that situation that is bringing that out, and that's not positive either.
Right, right. So it's kind of like when you see that a job is bringing out the worst in you, or you feel like you're becoming a different person, like that's a sign that you need to really pay attention to, like what's happening to me, what's contributing to this. Oh, it's the job. And being open to recognizing that. And I was also thinking about something else, Alicia, when you talked about how the light can be dimmed, our light can be dimmed in these toxic work environments. I think so many of us come into work environments excited that we got the job, excited about what we're going to do with the job and all these different things. And then the toxicity happens. Like it keeps happening. And we say, okay, I got this. I can maneuver, I can navigate. I'm not, I'm used to this kind of stuff. I can make my way around it. But it just accumulates over time. And I think it just starts to dim our light and it starts making us feel very helpless and hopeless. And to me, that just equates to like a lost dream. Like the dream is being extinguished and it turns into a nightmare, right? And so when I talk about my own experiences in a toxic job, and when I work with Black women, I talk about let's acknowledge the grief about the loss of the dream of the job and what you thought it was going to be compared to what it was. So you talked about, and I briefly mentioned about as Black women, when we're in these work environments, we're trying to find a way to survive and to navigate. So we might do like some quick fixes, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna go on vacation, or I'm gonna go get a mani pedi, or I'm gonna go hang out with my girls. I'm gonna do these different things. But those are in many ways quick fixes. So it's kind of like a band-aid, not really looking at the source of the wound. So can you talk a little bit about how can Black women get to the point of determining for themselves if it's best for them to stay or leave? Because on my channel, I never tell people, girl, just leave. That's not my role to do that. I'm just here to share information for people, Black women, to self-reflect and share resources. But it's up to each person to decide and up to like them and their family to decide what is best for them. So what are some steps you think would be helpful for Black women to think about and making that determination for themselves if it's best for them to leave or to stay?
Yeah, well, I must say, I really do. I love what you said there about like you can't tell people what to do. You can give resources, you can talk, you can be supportive, all the things, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody owns their own decision.
True.
And I want to just say before I answer that question, I want to say owning the decision can mean doing something even though your mom and your auntie say you should do it. It could mean, stopping doing things even though everyone thinks you're crazy. It can
Mm-hmm.
mean stopping doing things even though you just got that degree, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Right? It can mean that
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes we take a route, okay, we did it and we learned something and we need to go somewhere else, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the framework that I'm working with, and you may see under there the North Star lady, because I believe in that. I believe that we all have our personal North Star, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that North Star is unique to us,
Yeah.
and it's where we are meant to be. It's where we are meant to be. And only we know that. Nobody can tell us that, right? So you may say, well, how in the world do I know what that is? Well, what it's not is a job, right? The
Mm-hmm.
jobs will change, titles come and go. I heard
Mm-hmm.
that what is it? AI chat engineer is a job, right? So jobs titles come and go. It's not really about that. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to think about it with clients is just, let's just look at it along 5 dimensions. Okay.
Hmm.
And I'll talk a little bit later about how I came to this,
Okay.
but it's very important to understand these 5 dimensions about yourself deeply. First, what are your needs? What are your personal, professional needs, right? That can include lifestyle. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, they feel like they have a need to make the most money possible. That's
Mm-hmm.
just what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's not everybody, right? So the question is, do you want that because you want that? Or do you want that because everybody says, oh, you're so smart, you're so this, you can get that? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's not for you.
Hmm.
Because if that is for you, if that is a very, very important thing, and I'm not saying it's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
you might find yourself in situations that aren't serving you because you're overweighting that thing that may not that be that important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you want in terms of your lifestyle? What do you want from an employer? Some people want to work in workplaces that are fun. They want free pizza. They want everyone to know their name, right? Some people don't care about that. They just want to go to work, go home. They want to go to the
Mm-hmm.
movies. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's okay too. Some people need more flexibility because they have children and they
Mm-hmm.
want to be their version of being a parent is a big version, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for them, work is over here. It's important they do it, all the things, but family is first. And
Mm-hmm.
some people don't have that kind of family. And so they're looking for other things, right? So it's really getting clear about what your particular needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's one aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Another aspect of it is, what do you aspire to be? Right? Everybody had a dream for what they wanted to be when they were little. And most of us have a dream about where we want to see ourselves
Mm-hmm.
that day before we retire.
Mm-hmm.
If we feel like, yes, we knocked it out of the park, did everything we wanted to do the way we wanted to do it, and we landed and ended up where we wanted to be, what is that for you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that somebody who was the best worker possible? Was
Mm-hmm.
that like the most amazing nurse that served a community that really needed that? Was it that you created this business that was a trailblazer and did XYZ? Like, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not doing things, like, reflect, like right now, how
Mm-hmm.
close am I to where I aspire to be for myself?
Hmm.
Because if I'm not that close and I'm not taking steps to move closer, I don't know what you're doing then, right?
Right.
Because if you can't fight for achieving your own aspirations,
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is going to do it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And we're not out here trying to impress people. We're
Mm-hmm.
out here trying to have lives that are fulfilling and meaningful to us,
Mm-hmm.
that aren't making us sick and our hair fall out,
Right. And
you
I
know?
think I've heard this with Black women who say something like, I don't even like this career, or I don't even want to be in this type of job, but I feel stuck because I went to this school, I got this degree, I got all these other things. And so it's like you feel stuck. You feel like I put so much time here, but this is not even what makes me happy. Like I actually dread it. So really thinking about what is it you aspire to be. It may change over time. So you may think as a child or as a young adult, I want to do this one thing. And you get there and you're like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And so being able to say it's okay to shift gears, But I think the part about the financial concern and all that goes along with it, I think that's the part that trips Black women up. But we'll get to that. But I just wanted to just comment on that too.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And that brings me to the next one is, what are you interested in? Right? You know, you may be an executive in consumer products, but are you interested in consumer products?
Right.
Like maybe, I don't know. Right. But maybe really what you're interested in is helping the community. Right. If your real interest is in helping the community, then why are you working on Wall Street doing derivative trading? I'm saying that as a person who worked on Wall Street. Right. And I did it. And then, so what? I'm not interested. Like, it's intellectually interesting, right? Because I would, as an economist, and I love understanding countries and analyzing currency. I just geek out like that. But so I was interested in it. But there were also things I was interested in as well. So you really must interrogate. You know, if you're a lawyer, yes, it can be fancy. You can be proud. Your family claps. Your friends are proud. Like, all of that can be true. But if you're sitting in this office on the 76th floor and your window is the only one with the light on, and you are doing bankruptcy law briefings, you really must interrogate. Am I interested in this?
Right.
And maybe you are. I think there are people who are interested in that. But you have to find out if that's you.
Right.
Or if it's not you, are you on the path for you to be moving out of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And it may look different, right? Because I've met with Black women, and even for myself, that it doesn't have to look that particular way if you leave. So you may be an attorney and doing bankruptcy, whatever, but it may be that you now become an attorney and focus on something else, maybe get that additional training or consultation. Just like for me, I was working in the school district and I was like, wait a minute, all this stuff is happening. I don't think I'm meant to be here. This is clearly not making me happy. It's not helping me grow. Let me pivot. And I was able to pivot to doing so many other things. I think when we open ourselves up to say, wait a minute, there has to be something else. When you do that, you will see there's so many other opportunities. But the part about it is that many times we're stifled because we're scared. We're scared. We believe that this job is the only place where I can do this thing, or this job is the only place where I can use my degree, or the only place where I can make money. But all those things are not true.
The world is big. There are so many jobs and opportunities out there that we have never even heard of.
Yeah.
Most of us have networking circles. Some of them can be big, but they're not big as the whole United States. There's a lot out there. And part of what is our responsibility to do, once we're clear about our interests, is to start digging in and doing some research to find that place that would be better suited for us. Where, for example, like you said, like it could be maybe you're still interested in law, you're passionate about law. It's just you want to pivot to a different kind of law, or perhaps you want to do pro bono work in an area of more interest. Like, there are different ways to make it happen. But I think we do ourselves a disservice, and I don't want Black women to do themselves a disservice. We do a disservice if we don't allow ourselves to put our energy in our work, where we spend most of our lives, on things that we are not interested in. And related to that are values, right? I think, especially when money comes into play, we may be willing to sacrifice those values, right? But our values matter. They are a statement to ourselves of what we're willing to put up with, which we really need to interrogate for real. Like, what are we willing to put up with? And what are we not willing to go without? And when we're in a situation, we deserve to use that as criteria for whether something is for us or something is not for us. However fancy or prestigious or high paying or whatever that thing might be. If it's not in alignment with your values, you must look in the mirror and see if you're really okay with that.
And if you're not, being okay to start exploring what your options are. So when I talk to Black women, I say, look at what your options are, do the investigation, do the research, explore those things. I don't tell anyone to just up and leave a job unless they're in immediate danger physically and or psychologically. But how
Right.
do you start getting that plan together? And that's part of it. It's to really sit and think, is this what I want? And you know what else? As you were talking, I thought about something else. Is that I think a lot of Black women get to the point, I know that I absolutely did. I can be truly honest about this, where we are settling at a job. We are settling. So I was feeling all beat down and unstimulated, all these things. I was feeling all these things, right? But I would say, well, at least I have a job, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm wondering if other Black women feel the same way, even though, again, when I came to that job, I had all the credentials, all those things. But in my mind, I had started to believe, like drank the Kool-Aid, that this was the only place where I could really make money. And that was not true. But I was settling. And I think a lot of people settle in their lives. And what it may look like is, how is it that I work this hard to get here? Is this all that my life is supposed to be? And that can really contribute to depression too. So really listening to what we're talking about and taking those steps, because you can get wrapped up in this depression. And the depression is, there's nothing better for me. I have to just stay and tolerate all the negativity that I'm receiving in this environment.
Right. And you have more to give.
Mm-hmm.
You have more to give. And you know how unique and distinctive you are from other people who are in the same room, same office, same company.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think out of fear, I think we need to get out of a fear mindset.
Yeah.
Black women are powerful. We
Mm-hmm.
are educated. We are hard workers. We're all the things and scared at the same time. Right.
True. Yeah.
So we need to get that confidence up.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. There are people who have half the degree, half the experience, who are 2 times as confident as we are.
Mhm.
Let's just
Well,
put that in the universe.
that's the whole mediocre at best people who don't look like us, right?
Right.
So
And I ran HR. So I'm telling you,
yes.
right. And it would bother me when I would see people of color come in diminished and not realize the rock stars they are. And
Mm,
so the fifth part of the dimensions that I was talking about to define this North Star is, what are your unique strengths and skills, right? That nobody else has, because those are your superpowers. Those are the things you are amazing at. Everybody knows you're amazing at it. And
mhm.
they're the things you really, really like,
Mhm. Mhm.
because that's when you're fulfilled. When you get to do something you really like and have that be appreciated, have the
Mhm.
ability to express that in your
Yeah.
work and not be micromanaged, right? Or have someone take credit and all this other nonsense.
Ooh, that's still your work, yes. Mhm.
It is important to know what is uniquely yours and
Mhm.
own it and
Mhm.
talk about it. It's you. You ought to be proud of who you are.
Mhm.
Now, I used to get very upset with leadership development programs because they're up here to, here are the 5 things and this and that. Look, I've created leadership development programs. I've taught leadership development. I get it. But what I believe, as I look at employees and trajectories and happiness and disappointment,
Mhm.
I truly believe that trying to work on the weakest things that you have in your toolkit
Mhm.
is not that helpful, because that's somebody else's superpower.
Mm.
So you over here trying to train yourself to be better at the such and such, you suck at it. Let's just put
Mhm.
it out there. And if you work on it, which, okay, maybe the world will say that's what you should do, but
Mhm.
you're only going to be mediocre at it. It's
Hmm.
someone else's superpower, and you put all that energy into it, and the
Mhm.
things you're amazing at, you're not doing, because you're
Right.
doing that. And now you're going to have self-esteem issues because you're comparing yourself to other people that are amazing at that. You're not there. And then you really find yourself in the world of hurt, because now your self-esteem is down,
Mhm.
and what, maybe I shouldn't be here, and all the other things that can spiral out of control.
Mhm.
Because once you've lost your confidence or never even figured out what made you amazing,
Mhm.
it makes it very hard to show up. And
And it makes it easier for people to manipulate you because they see that you're broken and then they know that they have the power. So they know that they can kind of milk you and keep you to working harder as a workhorse to get that approval, because they know that you're seeking approval from them. So that's a very dangerous situation to be in.
And no one will ever tell you, oh, work less. They will let you work yourself to the ground.
Yes, they will.
And once you've done it, they will take your name off the door, put somebody else's name on the door,
Yep.
and off we go.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
So we're out here concerned and this and that. We're amazing.
Yeah.
If you're in a place where people can't recognize you're amazing, even though you're demonstrating it and knocking it out of the park, then you have to ask yourself, is this where I want to be?
Yeah.
If my skills and experience and strengths are not appreciated here, why am I here? And again, that's why I say it's not just money.
Yeah.
Feel like all those are the 4 dimensions I talk about. Some people put them all to the side because money, money, money.
Yeah.
Not all of that. It's not the bright, sparkly thing that we should move towards, right? One of the things I say all the time is like, the North Star isn't the brightest star in the sky. It's not. But it's the most important one for navigation.
Ooh.
Because it tells you where you are.
Uh-huh.
And you must look at these 5 dimensions that we talked about. And you may make decisions that are to the left of where you want to be, but at least you're to the left.
Right. So you have to, first of all, you need to know where you are. You need to know who you are, so you know what direction to go in. That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. And if you make a decision to veer off, at least it was a decision.
And it's your decision, because you made a comment earlier that I forgot. I want to follow up with you about. You made a comment earlier about it's not what your mother or your aunt wants for you. It's what you want for you. And I think a lot of times Black women in toxic jobs, I can speak for myself again, that we stay in toxic situations because of people projecting their fears onto us. So I've been very vocal about my mother did not want me to resign at all, because she's she's baby boomer. She's a baby boomer, right? And so I'm Gen X. And so her generation was, you go to work, you get this good job, you stay, you retire, you get these good benefits. And the thought that I would resign from the so-called good job with good benefits was inconceivable for her. And it was just like, I can't imagine doing that. It's a bad idea. So for me, and I say this to people too, that because I knew she could not understand, I chose not to talk to her about that anymore, because I knew that the job was slowly killing me. I knew that I couldn't survive there. So I knew that I had to make the best decision for me and my family. So I ended up leaving. I didn't tell her. So for people watching this, if you have people around you who are projecting their fears onto you, telling you to stay at a toxic job that you know is harming you, then it may be that you need to have that boundary with them and don't tell them. Find other people you can connect to who can support you, but maybe for a time being and not telling them. And Lisa, you also said a really good point too about leadership programs. So I had a wondering. So with leadership programs, I'm also wondering in some situations, particularly if you're in a toxic job, if it's not really helpful because it's focusing on you as the individual need to improve something. There's something wrong with you. However, many times these toxic jobs, it's the system that's the problem. So you can go to the leadership program, get all these skills, get all these things, and come right back into that toxic job and not thrive and start internalizing there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah, we're back to that. And we deserve more than that. And it's so hard. And you would think this is the easiest thing in the world. And we tell our children this, and then we forget about it. We are enough. We are enough. We only have one life to live. Spending it fretting about what some miscellaneous person said who forgot about you 10 minutes after they said it is not a way to live.
Right.
In my family, some of the elderly people, unfortunately, my family members who I love so much, have passed. And I'm often given the task to write the obituary, And some of these people, they're older than me. They were in, we didn't live in the same state. I don't necessarily know them super well. And I write this and I think, this person had a full life.
Mm.
This person was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Did I know all of the elements that made that person amazing? I mean, obviously, I asked everyone to tell me what's awesome and this and that. But as I think about mine being written,
Mm.
what do I want it to say?
Mm.
If all it says is Alicia went to 2 Ivy League schools and spoke several languages, like if that's all it says, I will be
And she
very
was a great
disappointed.
employee. She was
You know,
such a hard worker.
it was a hard work. Yeah. What I wanted to say is I was a stand for women living confidently and following their own North Star
Mm.
as much as she tried to do the same for herself. If
Mm.
those were the only sentences in my obituary, I am 100% cool with that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And something else too that you mentioned about when we go into these work environments or we're in these work environments, sometimes we can get so riled up by what people say to us or what people do. And sometimes we think that it's questioning our own worth, that did I not do something right? Is there something wrong with me? Is there something Yet, if you really look at some of these people, because you said you were in HR, if you look at some of these people, they don't have half the qualifications that you have. They don't have half the superpowers you have. And many times they're intimidated by you. So that is why they make the job so toxic because they're trying to undermine you or they're trying to do all these negative things because now you're outshining them. So it makes me think about Pet the Threat. So everyone, if you have not heard about Pet the Threat, of course, I have to announce Pet the Threat because it's created by 3 Black women researchers and people steal their work. So I always want to say their names. So Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey, Dr. Keisha Thomas, Dr. Rosemary Phelps. So Pet the Threat deals with when a Black woman comes into the workplace and she's so great. Alicia, oh my God, we love Alicia. She's so smart. Oh, she's a rock star. We love her. We love her. We love her. And so Alicia starts getting all this attention and then she's the pet. But then when she's outshining other people, particularly those who are insecure, then it's a shift in terms of how Alicia is seen and treated like a threat. And so many of us have experienced that. I can absolutely say that happened to me. And so I think it's important for us as Black women, when we're in these workplaces and we recognize there's something not right, as opposed to all the scrutiny, like, yeah, some self-assessment is important. But when you start like beating yourself up and think there's something wrong with you, and I invite you to look at the source. Who is saying this to you? And what are they really about? More than likely, they are not on top of their game and they're intimidated by you. So, Alicia, as we think about all the things that we go through as Black women, oftentimes I hear Black women say things like, I cannot stand this job. I dread going to this job. They might be watching this on a Sunday and having the Sunday dreads of going back to work on Monday. I can't stand this job, but I stay here because I need the money. I have bills. There's no other job I can get. How do I know if I can find another job that will pay as much as this job? What about my health insurance? What about retirement? So all these fears. So can we speak about the fears? How would you, or what are some of the steps that Black women can take to address those fears so they're able to move forward and still pivot?
Right. Okay. So now my economist hat comes up. So I think it's important to know that in the United States, 3 million people quit their jobs every month.
Every month.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
That's a lot of people.
So it's a heck of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Those are people, and those are not layoffs, by the way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Voluntarily quitting their jobs. 3
mm-hmm,
million. By the way, the
mm-hmm,
layoff number is a million. But really, so that's people who are voluntarily leaving.
mm-hmm.
These are, and we know that leaving a job is a big decision
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
and it's scary, but let's also stipulate to the fact that the social contract between employer and employee is not the same as it was for baby boomers, right? You can be asked 3 months 3 months ago to relocate to the Midwest, and then 3 months later be given a pink slip.
Right.
Like, so we live in a very dynamic labor market. And when I would sit in front of employees who seemed upset or dissatisfied in some way, I always say to them, you need to optimize for your own situation. It made sense for you to join the company a year and a half ago because your life was this and blah, blah, blah. But you did this job and you learned something about yourself. And maybe this isn't the place for you. It doesn't have to be. It's okay. We'll be good. But you have to optimize. And I say this for Black women, you must optimize for your own situation. You mustn't be afraid to quit. You mustn't let the fear cause you to get stuck and not live the life that you deserve to live. Every decision to move isn't a stupid one.
Right.
Every decision is not as risky as the other decision. Sometimes it's riskier to stay. Sometimes you should stay and navigate and get the ring or whatever the heck it is. But sometimes it's better to leave. And, you know, let's interrogate this piece about the money for a little bit. You know, the biggest pay salary jump you usually get is when you change companies, right? Because when you're in a company, the company is in the mindset of who's going to get a 3% raise, who's going to get 6% raise. You have to go to another job and get 20% more, right? Because they don't know what you made before, because it's not even really legal in most places to even know what you made before. And anyway, it's irrelevant because the number reflects your value. And your value isn't less just because you were loyal to a job and you stayed there. Now you're moving to a place that is now newly recognizing this value you have. So I just want to put out there in the universe that you're not necessarily doing yourself a financial favor by staying where you are, even though it might feel like you're doing that.
Right.
I also want to put in the universe that of the people who start new jobs every month, over 40% of them are doing jobs that are in a totally different job category. You know what I mean? These are, you know, job switchers. And if they can do it, why can't we do that as Black women? Why can't we do that? We can't be afraid to do everything. And we know that we carry a lot on our shoulders for various reasons. And that's not nothing. And I get it. And just like you, I don't tell anybody what to do, but I certainly want to make sure that people have frameworks to think about these things and tools to help in their decision making so they can confidently feel like they're doing the right thing for themselves so that they can move towards their North Star, which reflects who they really, truly are.
So, Lisa, I want to ask you something, just a follow up. Oh, well, actually, I just thought of something else. So, you talked about the data about so many people leaving, resigning from their jobs, so many Americans. Is this like a cross section of different ethnicities and races of people leaving?
I haven't seen that data cut that way. I've seen it cut by age and by region, by state, and by industry. And it can vary tremendously across those things from month to month.
Okay.
You know, definitely can, like, there's a lot of turnover in retail, for example, and hospitality. We know that was like a big deal during the COVID, right? People were afraid to have those jobs, you know. So there are certain jobs, and finance is another one. But the broader point is people leave. You can leave. The average tenure in a job. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, right? We used to work ourselves like animals and didn't even complain. We just doing stuff. It just millennials look at us like we're bananas,
right? And Gen Z is like, what? Are you kidding me?
Like, I mean, we paid a price for it. That's for sure.
Right.
We certainly paid a price for that, and we definitely were not North Star people. And I feel like people who are in mid-career have the opportunity. I mean, you can always be a North Star person. It's never too late for anybody to do anything. I believe that.
Right.
But you can live in more of your joy if you do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it after your kid is already 10 years old and you missed every game and every parent-teacher conference because you wanted to make $50,000 more.
Yeah. And you're broken. You're broken physically, psychologically. You have developed high blood pressure. You start gaining a lot of weight, like all these other things that might come along with, and I did a video before about golden handcuffs. So feeling like you're stuck in a job because the so-called financial payoff is so good, but you feel stuck in many ways. So being mindful of why are you really staying at that job? And I want to ask you too, because you said something about evaluating if it's best to leave or to stay. But what you said, is it riskier to stay? Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of why might it be riskier to stay?
Yeah, well, you made a point too, if you're in immediate harm,
Hmm.
we're not putting up with that. We're not doing
Right.
that. We're not
Right.
risking lives, right? We're not doing that. But it does require a very sober
Hmm.
assessment of whether or not it is even possible to flourish where you are.
Mm. I
Look at
like
your
that.
North Star. Is there any way, if the toxicity, maybe it's only relevant to one department?
Hmm.
Maybe if you went to another department, it's a completely different scenario. In
Hmm.
that case, maybe it does make sense to put some energy into figuring out how to navigate the situation you're in and change it up,
Hmm.
right? I mean, one thing that's very important that a lot of employees don't do, and they should do, but it's back to that you don't feel a sense of agency, like you're not allowed to do something.
Hmm.
But you need to tell people what your North Star is. Like, it's amazing how the universe sometimes will meet you once you've articulated something, right?
Hmm.
So if you're out here upset that you're not progressing in your career, and in your mind, progressing is I don't get to work on high profile projects, I don't get to travel,
Hmm.
and that's what I want. Maybe if you told somebody that, they'd be like, "Oh, you want to travel? Okay, we can put you on this project." You know what I mean? And you can have what you want,
Hmm.
but have not clearly articulated to yourself. If you have not decided for yourself what that is, then you
Hmm.
can't tell anyone. And then part of that's on you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to own that too. No one's out here reading minds.
Yeah.
Everybody is busy. And especially if, you're somebody who people feel has a lot of promise,
Hmm.
they expect you to advocate for yourself. Why?
Hmm.
Because that's what leaders do. That's what they do.
Well,
It
see,
is-
that's a good point. That's a really good point because you said that's what leaders do. I think a lot of us are environments where we're not working with leaders. We're working with bosses. So bosses kind of micromanage, they keep you in your place, they do these things. Leaders want you to grow. They pour into you. I don't think I've worked with a leader in a long time. A long, long time. Okay. Maybe when I first started my job, yes. But towards the end, no, I did not work with a leader. And so I think what's important too is some discernment about, is it important or can you talk about your North Star in terms of things that you want when you're in an environment, particularly with a leader who wants to see you grow? Yet, if you're in an environment where you have a boss who's micromanaging, who's insecure, you may perceive accurately there's no psychological safety in this place, that I don't want to put myself out there. But I think that's another sign that maybe that's not the place for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And because most people aren't cut out to be leaders, like newsflash, like
right.
nobody wants to accept that. I mean, a lot of people push back on me, but in general, like, yes, you can, and you're smart, as if it's not an intelligence issue, right?
Hmm.
You have to be a certain kind of a person.
True.
I have had many conversations in my office with employees where, this might sound a little controversial, but
Mhm.
I said, why do you want to be an executive and a manager? Well, I just wanted to be because that my progression and this and that. I said, you don't like to delegate. You don't like to, you're very poor at communication, and you really don't like it. You don't spend any time giving people feedback because you're afraid to give feedback, because you don't
Mm.
like to have difficult conversations, right?
Hmm.
I think that is what leaders do.
Right.
And you
Right.
don't have any interest in those things, and also you suck at them. So why?
Huh?
So let us, let's get zen about this
Yes.
and figure out, if the issue is that you want to do well in your career,
Hmm.
it is very possible to do well in your career as an individual contributor.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are many right? There are many companies where the people who are valued most are the individual contributors because
Mhm.
they're doing the work. They're the
Mhm.
ones who are designing the things. They're
Mhm.
the ones who are executing the things and doing all the things. The managers are just like helping them, support them to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the individual contributors are extremely highly paid.
Yeah.
So we really need to get out of this whole notion of the only way success can look is I've climbed the ladder
Yeah.
and manager to director to executive. You might find yourself out there freaking out
Yeah. And
because you
causing harm to people. So if you're not qualified and you get into these positions, you're harming other people you're supposed to be leading because you don't know how to lead. So being okay with saying, I might want to, but that's not what I need to be doing because I will be causing harm to people. And I think I'm just assuming that sometimes people may do this because their identity is so wrapped up into their job and their job title. So they want that manager position. They want all these different things, even though they're not qualified to do that. Even though if they got into that position, they would harm people. It's more so about their own identity and not for the good of the company or other people.
and if you do that for a long time, you're really in a world of hurt because at some point somebody's going to notice there's going to be a good employer who will
Mm-hmm.
notice that you are not a good a manager, even though when you applied for the job, you spoke up how good a manager you were, they believed you because how
Mm-hmm.
would they know?
Mm-hmm.
You're showing up, you're horrible, your
Oh,
staff is complaining, and this is the kind of employer who doesn't put up with that. This is
yeah.
employees that we have good managers here, and
Yeah.
that's not you, and we don't see it in you, and you're out. And
Yeah.
so I've seen people like that bounce around from job to job
Mm-hmm.
and feel that they can't go back to the individual contributor level because that feels like failure, when really it's being who you are, and it's not being less than.
Yeah.
It's not an ego situation.
Yeah.
It's where can you show up most powerfully
Yeah.
and add the most value and feel good about the value you're adding and being compensated for that value and
Mm-hmm.
all of those really positive things that come up
Mm-hmm.
versus taking this generic notion of
Mm-hmm.
what success looks like and
Right.
then constantly measuring yourself against it when it's not who you are. And
Yeah.
so for some people it is who they are, and God
Yeah.
bless. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that no one should be a manager or a leader,
Yeah.
and but we know them when we see them, by the way.
Absolutely. It's like you can see the insecurities all over them. And it reminds me of I watched a video recently, and I actually did a reaction video or two reaction videos about narcissistic leaders. And it was on Dr. Ramani's channel. She talked about that people who have these narcissistic personality styles, they are more likely to go into leadership because they feel so insecure. The leadership position kind of fills that void. So we're talking about people who are self-assured, who would say, you know what, maybe leadership is not a good position for me. But when you have people who are exhibiting maybe narcissistic personality styles, they love the leadership position because now they're revered and they have this so-called power. But what you're saying is eventually it's going to come around and it's going to be like, what is it? The emperor has no clothes. Like you're
Yeah,
going to be revealed as being an imposter. You're a fraud, right? So at some
right.
point it's going to be revealed.
And it's not cute for that to be revealed when you're 45 years old.
Right, right, right.
So I had an employee one time that, and we thought that they had great credentials, this many years of experience. We're like, oh, they're going to crush it.
Mm-hmm.
And they came and they did the opposite of crushing it. And when we were giving feedback, because I'm very, very big about giving people very pointed, non-generic feedback, because that's respect. That is
Mm-hmm.
respect to a person,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
So we gave this feedback, and ultimately we had to let them go. But it, it's always a painful thing to have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But what they said to me was, you know what? No one had ever given me feedback.
Wow.
So they didn't even know.
Right.
And I'm saying, and I just thought, well, this is a sad situation. And they actually thanked me,
Mm-hmm.
because now this gave them, and they didn't know where they were going to go next. They didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what And now, at long last, what they had clarity on was
Mm-hmm.
science.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And that honesty is so rare, right? In terms of the workplace. And you also talked about there's a decision-making process in the pivot. But before you answer that, I want to give a special shout out. I saw this comment come in a moment ago about one of the women here in our community put in her resignation on Wednesday. I want to say congratulations to you. She said, my toxic boss hand was shaking when I handed it to her. My bridge job starts in October. I need a month off. Congratulations. Okay. So that is an example of you taking your power back, you recognizing your North Star and saying, wait a minute. Okay. Maybe the next place I go may not be my dream job, but it may be my bridge job. It might be a bridge to something else. So can we talk a little bit about, and I love that you're taking time off. I love that because sometimes we go from job to job to job to job and we don't have a chance to rest. So I love that you're taking rest. I congratulate you for taking your power back and recognizing there's different ways to maneuver this in the pivot. Part of the pivot might be going into a bridge job. So, Alisia, can we talk about a bridge job and also the decision-making process in that pivot to something different?
So, I'm always going to say it comes back to your North Star and how do you want to get there? Now, if moving to North Star is very dramatic, like sometimes, I know you may have heard stories about people who go to medical school, they do all the things and they graduate and now they're in the hospital. I mean, they were, whatever. Now it's time to practice, and they don't like working with patients.
Right. After all that, yes.
It's real that they don't like to work with because that wasn't their North Star,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not what they were interested in, right?
Mm-hmm.
It met their needs, it met
Mm-hmm.
their aspirations, it met their values. They wanted to help people, it
Mm-hmm.
met their strengths, but it didn't meet their interests,
Right.
right?
Right.
So for somebody like that, they're going to have to figure out, well, they're going to figure out what the interests are. Let's figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody like that is going to have to take a bridge job
Mm-hmm.
as they navigate, like, use your superpowers, figure that out, your experiences, all these things you have,
Mm-hmm.
and figure out a way to start applying them to things that are adjacent
Mm-hmm.
to what you were trained to do
Mm-hmm.
so that you can get closer and closer. For
Right.
some people, that's not going to be necessary. So for example, there are some people, shout out to the nurses. I have a lot of nurses in my family. But there are some people who are nurses who've done it years and like, I want to be a doctor, right? And so that it becomes clearer what needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen it up close. So it's not like, they're picking something dramatic and they don't really know what they're talking about. And they might get there and be like, I didn't mean to do this. They
Mm-hmm.
actually know what it is.
Yeah.
And so there's a path and they can take the steps. And so that is, something that can happen. It's
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's not that clear, clear cut,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And people will have to figure out what to do. It's also true that you're not going to meet every element of your North Star at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
100% of the time. It's that, this is a world and is realistic. We have to be reality based. We have to be
Right.
realistic. But
Right.
if we're not getting any of these five dimensions met, that is probably a disqualifier.
Mm.
That
Mm.
is probably a
Yeah.
disqualifier. And it can't just be, well, it doesn't meet any requirement except money, so I'll take it. Like that's not it. That's
No.
not it. There
No.
are a lot of ways to make money.
True.
We
True.
have to get out of this very
Black or
fixed.
white, it has to be this way or that way. There's a lot of nuance involved. In a bridge job, it allows you to make money, okay? So that as you're starting to find out or pursue what that North Star is, so you don't have to stay at the toxic job while you're figuring it out. That's what we're saying, that you have many, many options. So, Alicia, can we talk about, because you have a wealth of wisdom that you've been sharing with us, but we're curious about your own experiences in a toxic job or jobs, because unfortunately, Black women have a history of more than one toxic job. That's so common. So, can
Yeah.
you share with us about your experience or experiences in a toxic job or jobs and how you arrived doing this work or came to doing this work?
Oh man. Yeah, absolutely I can. So I'm a person who is very focused on Black excellence. I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to be the best at everything. For college, I only applied to one school. It was an Ivy League school. Like I was that person. I just wanted to do the things. I was going to get that A. I was going to like everything. And if you gave me praise, I was going to go harder. I was going to go in. And so, and
Sound like
people,
me. Oh my gosh. Oh my,
the Generation X, I'm telling you, this is how we operated.
Yeah.
So I was in a company and I was doing well. I was in top talent program. C-suite of the company was my mentor. It was at that level. And they said to me, okay, Alisia, your next step is you're going to do job X. And I knew to my core that job X was not it. I just was like, oh my God, everything you're describing, I hate. I really don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it because I was a rule follower. And so, and I didn't know how to say no. I didn't take up space. I didn't like, I'm sitting here in the C-suite of this multinational company in top talent and still not feeling like I could express a preference. I mean, it was just, you look back at that and say, what in the world? So I did this job and they didn't want me there. They resented that I was placed there. They resented that I was a person of color. There was racism happening. I reported it, but this is at a time when people are just kind of like, and I kept thinking I could make it work. I kept thinking if I worked harder, I could do it. And I kept putting to the side the fact that these people were creating toxicity that I couldn't get around because we didn't use that expression toxicity. We didn't use that.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, I'll just keep working harder. I was there, so late. Sometimes, I mean, I don't even know how I didn't get into accidents because there was like deer and whatever in the middle of the night and you're trying not to get run over. But I knew the people who cleaned the building.
Wow.
They were very nice people. But why did I know them? I knew them. I'm the last person there.
Wow.
Okay. And this job nearly drove me crazy. And the more anxiety you have about the thing, the more mistakes you're prone to make, which then is something they shine a bright light on. See, we knew it all along, right? Then you end up in that. And I'm out here like, I'm more credentialed than everybody in here. And I did all those things, but I still didn't take up space. I just sat there and worked harder. And I almost went crazy.
Wow.
I called HR and I went on a leave of absence.
Good.
Because I said, I cannot
Good.
one more day. It doesn't matter, because I had gone to my sponsor afterwards and I said, I don't think this is working out. I'm all nervous as I'm saying it. And you know what he said to me? He said, Alisia, bloom where you're planted. And I said, what if I'm in the wrong pot?
What if the soil is contaminated? Yeah.
Well, it didn't get me out of the job. So
Right.
I still had to go back. So I didn't fight for myself. That little one sentence, which I probably said in a timid, low voice, probably, you know what I mean? I don't really remember. It was like all a blur. But I had to take that time off and say, all right, Alisia, pause.
Yeah.
This isn't making sense.
Yeah.
You deserve to live a life better than this. You're amazing. You have to figure out a better way, because if you don't, it'll happen again.
Yeah.
There's something in me. Yes, that
And
was
each
wrong.
time it happens, it wears you down more. Like it kind of breaks your soul. Like Beyonce, break your soul. It breaks your soul down more and more the more that you endure it, because you keep going in like, okay, I'll work harder. Okay, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then you start feeling like there must be something wrong with me because the situation hasn't improved.
That's right. And I came away with the North Star. I wasn't calling it North Star then, but that's what it was. Because I said, is this, wherever I go, is it meeting my needs? Is it consistent with my aspirations and my values? Am I interested in this dang on thing? And is it using the best that I have to offer as a unique individual?
Right.
And if those things aren't true, I'm not doing it. And
Yeah.
and the other piece was I told everybody what my North Star was. I mean, they didn't know, like, as it made sense, right? I'm
Yeah.
not out here announcing stuff, but
Yeah.
I would tell them, and every job I got since then has been consistent with my North Star
Hmm.
because I said it.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't just jobs that you go ahead and take. No, no, no. If it's not, I know that I'm a very strategic person. So
Mhm.
there's certain jobs I wasn't going to do. Don't ask me.
Mhm.
No, no. And I don't care how prestigious it is. They're going to be prestigious things and everything.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of prestigious things to do.
Yeah.
Also, let's not fetishize prestige. Let's put that.
That.
But every job I've done, one of the jobs there was this, I went to this leadership training course one time,
Mhm.
and it was like a 3-day thing, whatever. And so you had to stand up and announce who you were and
Mhm.
everything. And I said, I can stand up here and say what department I work for, and I'm Alisia and this and that. But I said, I'm not going to say that. Well, I did. I mean, they didn't need to know. But I
Yeah.
said, I basically said what my North Star is. I do this, I do that. Da, da, da. Let me tell you something. 2 weeks later, I received an email from somebody I did not know,
Mhm.
and it was one sentence. And he said, what do you think about joining our group? I had no idea what he's talking about. Now, what it ended up being was a really top tier consulting organization that they had created in this company where they were bringing in just top talent thing. But, the reason why he emailed me is
Mhm.
because what they were looking for in the
Mhm.
people that were to constitute that team
Mhm.
was my North Star.
Hmm.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So if I had not done that, I never would have gotten that job. It was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life.
Wow. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? So when you step out of, I have to just present that I'm this title, and you talk about what you're about and what you can contribute, people recognize that. And I would say, even though towards the latter part of me being at that toxic job was absolutely horrific, I made so many connections at that job that helped me pivot to other streams of income that I currently have. So sometimes it's not all bad, but you have to learn how to get the most you can out of that job. And I also want to say, because of that job, that I got all my student loans forgiven. So there's certain things that you can get out of a situation, but you have to learn how to navigate it. Now, I'm curious about something too, right? So you talked about that you got into this mode of I'll work harder, I'll work harder. That didn't work. And you just felt like I just feel defeated. How did you get to the point of determining I need to take a leave of absence? Because I took a leave of absence too, and I would absolutely advocate that for anyone, any Black woman. If you're in a stressful situation at the job, and it's just like if you're feeling ill, if you are able to take a leave of absence, please do so. I am so thankful I was able to do that because I was able to get time away and get some clarity. And I started exit planning. I never went back after my leave of absence. So, how did you get to the determination to take your leave of absence? And two-part question, you said that you were getting really sick. Can you share, or if you're okay with sharing with the audience, what did that look like?
Well, I had to take a leave of absence. It got to the point where I had so much anxiety every morning that I was like, how am I going to get there? Like, what? I just couldn't see a way out. Like, I just felt cornered. You know what I
Mm,
mean? It's just, I don't even want to say hit the brick wall. I want to say I felt like I was in a corner, and there was
mm,
just no way out of the corner. And I
mm.
just couldn't see myself one more day in this situation where nobody really, no one who I was directly dealing with wanted me to succeed.
Wow.
And I couldn't see my working hard, obviously, wasn't the way to make it work. And
Yeah.
that was only, I just had that hammer looking at the nails. That's it. That's
Mhm.
all I had. So I said, I got to reframe. I can't go
Mhm.
back. Not
Mhm.
now. Because what
Oh
I'm
my
doing
God. You remind me of
work.
Kamala Harris. We're not going back. Okay, you
Not
just remind me of that. Okay, go
We're
on. I'm
not
sorry.
going back. No, but I really had to think about why. Like, and this is what I was saying earlier. Like, it's not enough. And this is like in the title of our session, right? It's
Mhm,
not enough to say it's toxic, potentially leave, and I'm burnt out, and this and that. Yes, all of that is true, but
mhm,
that should not obscure or make it so that you're not putting enough energy into
mhm.
thinking about where you should be.
Yeah.
That is
The
the work.
planning for your pivot.
Yeah, that is the work,
Mhm,
because it's not just where you leave, it's where you, it shouldn't just be a push, it should be a pull.
mhm.
Where do you want to be? It's your life and you
Yeah.
only have one. Tomorrow is my 10-year cancer survivor anniversary, right?
Wow.
Now, when I was in corporate, people used to always say to me, "Why are you so upbeat?" You know, I said because my mother used to always say, "Not everybody who thought they were going to wake up today woke up."
So true.
Right? So there's that. Also, I didn't fight cancer so that I could come in every day and be miserable. You're certainly not
And
going to have
dread
that.
waking up, right? Yes.
Yeah. Every
Mhm,
day is a blessing. But I
mm.
refused. I'm going to use every day to make it as good as I can. And if
Yeah,
there's someone out here trying to create the conditions for me not to feel good about myself, I'm not going to let that happen. Either I'm going to do something to neutralize that or remove myself from that, or I'm
mhm.
going to leave straight up and know that I'm amazing and I
Yes,
will find another place, because if they saw my amazingness, somebody else will too.
exactly.
Because I believe in myself, even if
Yes,
it's hard, even if everyone says I'm bananas, all of the things, because we're not living for our aunties. We are living for ourselves.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's nothing more satisfying than to know who you are and what you need to fully live into who you are,
mhm,
particularly as it relates to your career.
yes,
But only you can do it. If you
mhm,
ask your friends this, they can say, they'll say nice things and they'll be able to speak to certain things. This is inside job.
yeah,
This is
so
an
true,
inside job.
so true.
And if you don't do it, you will get to your North Star by accident.
Oh, yeah,
And no, maybe. And there's no power in that at
yeah,
all. I
yeah,
don't. I,
yeah,
I, I don't think so.
yeah. I think when you know your worth and you know that life is much better than dreading anything in our lives and being okay with saying, this is not okay, and I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to live a life that I know that I deserve. And that takes a lot. But I think for us as Black women to step into that and to know that is so powerful and so revolutionary, which leads me to my next question, to something that is something so revolutionary too, is the nomination of Vice President Kamala Harris and the DNC. And I'm from Chicago, so I was like, oh,
Oh,
watching all that kind of stuff. So can we talk just a little bit about what we saw, last week and what we saw with so many powerful people and just coming together, and what ways can we learn as Black women from what we saw at the DNC? What are some of the lessons or messages that we can receive from that?
I have so many feelings about that. One of the things that's so powerful, which I think is consistent with my worldview anyway, the idea that we're not going back, the clarity of the vision.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
we know what Kamala's, after watching that for 4 days, we know what Kamala's North Star is. We
Mhm.
know it. She said it.
Yes.
We all know it's that beacon, not the brightest one necessarily. Like I said, the North Star isn't the
The
brightest one,
direction. Yes.
but we know where we're headed. And
Mhm.
we know, like Michelle Obama told us, it at some point the polls aren't going to be amazing. At a certain point, things are going to go down, but we need to do something, right?
Yeah.
She said, but what I want to say about Michelle Obama, which I think is very interesting, and
Mhm.
many people say she gave the best speech of the whole thing,
Mhm.
um, and people often, as they opine and discuss about it, and this is not the first time they've done it with regard to her. I remember people used to say, "Why won't she just run?" You know what I mean? She's the most popular woman in America. Why won't she run? Like they used to say about Oprah, right?
Mhm,
And they would say, "Why won't she run? She's such a natural and this and that."
mhm,
But I look at that and I say, you know what? This is a woman, amongst other things, who knows what her North Star is.
mhm.
And I don't know all her needs and aspirations, values, but I do know what she's not interested in is being in politics.
Right. She has made that abundantly clear.
And she is not being moved. It's not like there's not pressure on her to do it.
Mhm,
It's not like, let's be right, we know that. It's
mhm.
not like she doesn't know that she could have a really positive impact on the United States if she did it.
Yeah.
She's not she's, if anything, she is a self-aware person.
Yes.
But it's not an interest.
Mhm,
So if she, I mean, obviously she has a lot going for her, but even like to strip that away, I think if she
mhm,
weren't playing at that level, she's still a person who believes in herself
mhm.
so much that even when she was an intern, she was like that. You don't
Yeah.
just become like that, not
Right.
at the level of power she's at. So being a politician is not part of her North Star, even though she can do it. She may be
Mhm,
pressured to do it.
mhm,
It's consistent with her values. She aspires to have an impact, right? All those things. But that critical part of her North Star was not satisfied. She's
yeah.
not doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that among the other lessons, I mean, I know she was saying do something, and I'm out here like, don't do something, right? Don't don't do something that is not consistent with who you truly are,
Yeah.
because you're not standing in what makes you great. We can't be her because she's uniquely her, but
Exactly.
we can certainly stand in our power confidently in who we are and
Mhm,
taking every possible step to
mhm,
become the person we dream of being.
mhm.
And we can do it. And if we don't do it, or at least move in the direction of doing that, that's on us.
Yeah, yeah. And that's Alicia, she modeled what is it like to step into your superpower. Her superpower is speaking and mobilizing people. Let's do something, do something. So that mobilizes, that's her superpower. So people can say, oh, we want her to do this. No, she doesn't want to do that. But she's able to stand firmly into her superpower. And so I hope that we were able to see that Michelle Obama and so many other people there, Oprah and Kamala, like all these people modeled what it's like to stand into your power and stand proudly in it. So, Alicia, as we're winding down, can you please share with the audience what are the services that you offer and how you can be contacted?
Oh my goodness, thank you. No, I'm so excited about this. I told you guys about my my obituary. But I really am a stand for women standing in that power that you were referring to and confidently making career decisions that are consistent with who they are so that they can live lives that are fulfilled of meaning and supportive of their wellness, right? That they can be proud of, right?
Mhm,
So I have the Career True to You program, and it's where I work very deeply, intensely with women who are looking to figure out how to align their job slash career decisions with who they truly are. So that work that I was giving examples of here is the work that we do deeply with this women. So with these women, so that at the very end they have defined their North Star and they now have a tool that they can use to judge against any of the major job or career decisions they have to make and know if they are working in alignment or misalignment, so that they can make a choice of what they want to do, but they're clear on what their North Star is. So it's a very powerful piece of work. It's for
mhm.
women who are ready to step out, who are working on being fearless and being confident in doing something that serves them because they're pretty clear that where they are right now and what they're doing right now isn't serving
I love that. I love that. Okay. And I just want to share with the audience before I read the community chat how I even met Alisia. So Alisia and I are both in Stephanie Perry's YouTube Success Society. So I want to give a shout out to Stephanie, give Stephanie her flowers that I was able to create my YouTube channel. Alisia has her YouTube channel because of Stephanie Perry. So if you are a Black woman and you're interested in having a YouTube channel, I would strongly suggest that you check out Stephanie Perry's YouTube challenge. It is really, really, really good. Okay. So I'm going to read the community chat and then we'll start winding down. Hello, Marissa. Good to see you. Good afternoon, sisters. Peace, joy, and love. That was me, Dr. Kamani. Now I'm feeling different. Taking a leap of faith and do what you are passionate about. At least I have a job now. Yeah, that was me. I reject that. Like, oh, I can't believe I even said that. But it was true. It was like I was trying to gear myself up to settle every day. I don't want anybody to live like that. Start with your strengths. Yes. Good evening. Hello, everyone. Yes, about your I want to give you a high five again, sis, about your resignation and taking that rest and getting that bridge job. And she said, thank you, Dr. Kamani. That's so sad, Alisia, about what you went through. Totally agree. How do we contact you both? So I mentioned about Alisia's information. I'll put that in the description section. To contact me, you can go to my website, liftingasweclimbconsulting.com. I will put that in I think it's already in the description section, but that's how you can reach me. Great job, ladies. These women are phenomenal people and our fears love them. Yes. So I'm about to head off soon to jump on the Win with Black Women call. So I hope that everybody is really engaged in this whole process right now. We're in a very crucial time period. So please take this seriously and really know that you deserve better. You are able to pivot, even if it's scary. You are able to pivot. When you recognize you're scared, lean into those people who can help you. Lean into those resources that can help you as you pivot and you go to that North Star. So, Alicia, I'm going to give you the last word as we wind down today.
Wow. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation. It's such a thrill to know that you are offering a space for people to talk about this, for Black women to talk about this. So many times people suffer in silence. Yes. We didn't have this community when I was suffering back in the 90s. Yes. We didn't have spaces like this. And so for those of you who are, like, oh, of course the spaces. No, this is a very, very special thing. And to have somebody as talented as Paula to do this, I just think it's amazing. And I just want to be a stand for you all as you move toward what you deserve to do. And that is to become who you actually truly want to be and not let any excuse or anybody else stand in the way of you doing that introspective work that will enable you to confidently be where you're meant to be. So that is my dream and hope for all of you. Love to work with you on it because I'm, as you can see, a little passionate on this topic. But even if not, just make it happen for yourself. And I wish you all luck as you try to do that.
Well, this is a class, like your passion for this really is reflective that this is your North Star work. You're passionate about, just like the work that I'm doing now. I'm passionate about this. I love doing this work. In fact, I have to stop myself like, okay, enough, stop doing this because you need to rest. So that really shows being in alignment. I think a lot of us are not, but I do want to speak. There's two comments that just came in I want to speak to. One comment, I feel as though my job has made me feel so unworthy. How do you deal with the feeling like you're not good enough? So that it's a byproduct of knowing you are in a toxic job. When you start feeling that way, I would strongly offer to you, if you're not currently in therapy, to please participate in therapy and talk to your therapist about that. Because when you're around when you're in these toxic systems, they will make you start thinking that there's something wrong with you. And just like when I said the water's dirty, you're going to start ingesting the water. So you're going to start ingesting some of that toxicity and it's going to be within you. So you need to be able to go someplace, talk to people who are objective, not your friends and family, because they're not objective. A therapist who is objective, it can help you reality test and help you question those messages that you're receiving that you're not worthy. Because sis, you are more than enough. any place that you are in, anybody that you're around who lets you think that you're not worthy, that's not the place for you. That's not the people you need to be around. Okay. So if you are feeling this way, again, therapy is a really good outlet to have somebody to talk to. And in fact, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm getting angry for you about being in that situation, because the fact that anyone will try to make you feel like you're unworthy. I don't even know you, sis. I don't even know you. But that fires me up, that someone will try to treat you that way. I want you to know that you are more than enough. Please seek therapy. Please seek other resources to help you, because all of that can take a toll on you. Okay. Alisia, did you want to say something too about that?
I definitely agree. I definitely agree, because some of this, there can be a lot of underlying things that lead up to those types of feelings,
Mm-hmm.
that need to be explored, and therapy is the place for that, right?
Yeah.
And so when I work with people, I make it really clear I'm not a therapist. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with people who they're unfulfilled, and they're really ready to make that next step. And there may
Mm-hmm.
be fears in doing that, and then maybe be in toxic environments. But it's not them grappling with some of the things that she was describing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about moving forward and making bold changes that
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah.
That's what that's about. But I did want to say, because I noticed that somebody, I didn't want to make a confusion about my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is I Am the North Star Lady. So that's how you can find me. And the other links are you can
Right
find
in
them
the
in the
description
description
section.
of the video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And just to add on that, I promise we're going to end. But when I saw that comment, I felt myself like getting hot. Like I just really, that is so upsetting. And maybe because I identify with your comment, because I felt the same way. There was something wrong with me, but I had to take a step back and say, wait a minute, I am dope. But the fact that you're not recognizing that, or you're trying to make me feel like I'm not, there's something wrong with you and this system. But that was through therapy. And therapy, in addition to, I was working with coaches. So therapy helped me to reality test about what was happening, to help me start recognizing that I had to get out of this environment that was harming me. That was what therapy did. Therapy also helped me recognize what were some of the ways that the job was becoming a trauma trigger for me. So there were triggers or reminders of other traumas I went through that I was experiencing at the job. I was having like this parallel experience. So that's how therapy was helpful for me. And then coaching was helpful for me in terms of laying out, what is my roadmap? What are the next steps that I need to take? So for you, sis, it might be therapy and coaching. But again, please know that you are more than enough. And the last comment I see that came in, have a North Star week, everyone. Perfectly stated. I love it. I love it. I love it. So everyone, please give this video a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know to suggest this video to other Black women. Please share this video with at least 2 other Black women. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel and Alisia's channel, please do so. Turn the notification bell so you know we go live when we upload a video. I'll thank you. You're welcome, sis. And I will see you all later. Take care. Bye-bye.